You can become super powerful in Tears of the Kingdom by following just a few simple steps. Today I'm going to show you all the items that you need to defeat the toughest enemies and the best ways to upgrade them. Now, since we'll farm some really tough enemies, in this case the Lynels, there are two weapons you'll want to grab real quick from the Hyrule Castle before proceeding. If you didn't get here yet, you can easily reach the throne room by using the Skyview Tower from the Lookout Landing and then just glide your way to the main entrance. In this room, you'll want to take the second stairs past the throne and then grab this Royal Guard Claymore from behind this pile of rocks onto the right side. Oh, and don't miss out on the Royal Guard bow onto the other side. You can simply jump to it, and this comes with 50 attack power. And by the way, every Blood Moon they respawn, so if you lose or break them, you can always grab them again later. Now, the Royal Guard Claymore is what makes this whole build work, as it essentially doubles its damage for the last 3 hits just before it breaks. You can actually do that on your own by simply slamming it into the ground or attacking until you see the pop-up message that it's about to break, but also that the attack power is now doubled. However, we'll only use this when mounting some of these enemies, which does not affect its durability nor does it break it one bit. On top of that, we also want to buff the damage, which we'll do by fusing creature parts to it. Now, until we get a more stronger one, we're gonna use the blue maned Lynel Horn, which actually gives you a significant boost of 33 attack power if you fuse it to this weapon. You can grab one for free, by the way, by simply completing the 2 quick side missions in the Eventide Island right here on this side of the map. If you followed my money guide from yesterday, you should easily find it and complete it by defeating the enemies. And once that's done, you can talk to Sesame again and he's gonna give you that reward too. Now, once you fuse it with the weapon, you will notice that your new attack power is 65. And if you bring it to the brink of destruction again, it will actually jump to 130. And this is basically what we're gonna be using until we can get some of the other stronger parts from the farm that we're gonna be doing, so that we can increase the damage even more, eventually almost reaching to 100, but I digress. Now, we're not done just yet. There are a few things that I recommend doing to make the next part easier. One of them is to fuse a wing to your shield, which you'll find plenty of right here in the Starting Sky Islands. This will let you now enter the arrow slow time on your own during shield surf without needing anything else. To do this, simply hold left trigger and then jump and quickly press A as you would to enter shield surf, but then quickly follow up with a double tap of the right trigger to pull out the bow and basically do the slow motion. This is what we're gonna be using to more easily stun lock the Lynel enemies. And finally, also grab yourself a bunch of bomb flowers. There are tons of these around the depths and also in caves, so you can grab these on your way to your farm spot. But now that all of this is done, this will bring us to the floating Colosseum in the central Hyrule depths. This place contains the 5 Lynel bosses that will fight and farm for their special drops, which we will also use to further upgrade our character. So the easiest way to reach this place is to jump through the Great Plateau North Chasm. You can easily do so by using the nearby Hyrule Field Skyview Tower and then diving through the nearby location. Once down, simply activate the light roots in the area to reveal it, and from this point on, it's easy to head over west using the nearby shores to reach the upper section of the Colosseum. Now, the farm is going to be rather straightforward, but I recommend making saves right before starting the encounter and also in between each successful fight. That way, in case something goes horribly wrong, you can always reload a checkpoint or continue from where you were left. Once you get close to the middle, the room closes and the first Lynel will start attacking you, so this is the strategy that I'm using. First, you'll want to jump up, enter that shield surf mode, and then double tap R2 like I said, so that you can enter the slow-mo and more easily hit the enemy right in its head. This will immediately stun lock it, which lets you go in and jump on its back. From this point on, it's super easy to just mash away your attack buttons. You don't have to worry about breaking the Royal Claymore since it's not going to do any of that, and you're going to deal significant damage to it since this beefed up version has some nice attack power. Simply rinse and repeat until the Lionel is dead, and then immediately grab the items that it drops. This includes the fusible components, but also grab the shields and especially the Lionel bow, since this can shoot 3 arrows at the same time, so this can make the headshots a lot easier in the following fights. But once defeated, the next one will immediately trigger, so you'll want to grab the items right away and immediately do another save. This way, you don't risk losing the items upon reloading, and you can also go back from where you were left off in case you did something horribly wrong. Otherwise, each Lionel play more or less the same, it's just that the subsequent ones get increasingly higher HP, with the exception of the 5th and final one, which also features extra armor plating. So just play against them the normal way. My suggestion is to keep your distance and not always jump in straight on, because you can get punished quite severely, and instead use the tricks I told you to jump in, stun lock, and do this until they're all down. For the last one, this is why the bomb flowers were so important. You can now use the Lionel bow from the previous attacks to chip in that much faster by shooting 3 bombs instead of just 1 at the same time. Once the armor is destroyed, the remaining fight goes exactly the same as the previous encounters. It's just that the enemy has a lot more HP, so hopefully you can take it down with the better version of the Claymore. But this is going to give you some amazing new gear once this is over. This includes the Savage Lionel bow, which is basically like the best version of this bow, comes with the highest damage, and is gonna be one of the best in slot for what we're gonna do a bit later with it. The Silver Lionel Horn is probably one of the best straight damage bonus fuse components we can get from here. 55 bonus damage, which we will use to buff the Claymore even more in the next phase. And also don't skip on the actual armor plating that drops from the last enemy on the ground. You cannot put this in your inventory, but you can immediately fuse it with your shield to gain a nice buff on top. Now obviously these mini bosses will respawn in the future after the next Blood Moon, so until then we will want to prepare with an even better upgraded version of this build. Which brings us to the next one to further buff our damage even more, which is the Octorok method to gain specific weapon buffs and to repair your weapons. You'll find a ton of these in the Death Mountains up northeast, and my recommendation is to farm this spot just north of the nearby shrine in the area. There are like 5 or 6 Octoroks here in a very tight space, basically on the path just down of the shrine, which will let you repair and upgrade 3 weapons on the same day. You can of course still go for the other locations that are pretty popular right now, it's just that I prefer this one. However, Octoroks are absolutely amazing. Not only do they repair an almost broken weapon, but they also provide random buffs on top, but only once per Octorok. So this means if there's a good weapon that we have, we don't have to waste it, we can just keep it, come back here, repair it, and even upgrade this even more with the following method. So let me show you an example with an almost broken Royal Guard Claymore. So I'll throw it on the ground in front of the creature. This is going to make it suck it in, and then it will bust it out completely repaired, but also with a random buff on top. It will only do this once, so do keep that in mind. If you throw it a second time, it's not gonna do anything with it, just spit it out immediately. So from this point on, what you want to do is to actually destroy the creature so that it respawns after the next Blood Moon, so that we can use it in the future for other weapons. For now, go ahead and search for a second Octorok, and right before you reach it, go ahead and do another save. This is because the next part is gonna be a bit RNG dependent, so in case we don't get what we want, we can just reset back at the previous save point. So in this case, we're gonna throw this weapon that's now been eaten by the previous Octorok to the second one. And what you're going to notice is that now there's gonna be some shiny effects appearing once it eats the Claymore, and if it throws it back, it's going to get a much better golden buff with much higher stats. So there can be different types of stats applied to the weapon once the Octorok eats it. It could be attack power up, durability, throw range, extra shots, and so on depending on the type of item. But in this case specifically of the Claymore, what we're looking for is attack power up plus 10. Now this might take a bit of time, but eventually you should get that buff, point at which it's time to almost break that 200 attack power for the claymore. So in this case, what we're gonna do is to basically combine this with that silver Lionel horn that gives us a plus 55 damage on top, making the weapon alone reach 97 attack power up before it's even applying the double damage buff. And once that's done, we can finally try to break it again, hit it a few times into the ground until you get the pop-up message, and now the damage will double to 194. This will basically make all the following runs against the same enemies much faster, as you're now basically almost one-shotting the first one in a single mount. But we still have two more weapons left, in this case a bow and a shield. The process is exactly the same, so in this case I'm going to use the Savage Lionel bow and throw it at the first Octorok. Then once we get the buff, I'm going to equip it and destroy the creature. We're gonna move on to the second Octorok, perform a save file before throwing the item, and then reload as many times as it takes until we get the best buff for this bow, which in this case is going to be the 5-shot burst. It's only going to work for this type of bow for some reason. It doesn't seem to work on the Royal Guard bow, by the way. I did test this quite a bit and I never got it, but for the Savage bow, I got it basically on the second try. And instead of the 3-shot burst, now we have a 5-shot burst, which is absolutely overpowered, especially when combined with some of the flower bombs to basically destroy an entire area. And this should make all the following encounters with the Lionels a lot easier. The same goes with the Hylian shield. You can get this very easily from the same Hyrule Castle, but it already comes with very high durability. Well, if you go with the same method, you can get an additional durability up modifier on top, which is basically going to make it last an eternity. Well, not really, but close enough anyway. I did run a few tests here and there with the Claymore. You don't really want to do this whole Octorok process while it's being fused, otherwise you'll miss a step in its breaking and you won't get the same amount of attack power out of it. You're gonna be missing about 25 at the max stage. So in this case, you will want to first head to Terry Town right here in the far east side of the map and unfuse this right there. You will get both the components back and you should do this like whole process with the bare weapon and not with the fused version. But yeah, that's pretty much it, how you reach some of the highest damage. Of course, there's gonna be more following soon with weapons and other tests. So if you want to see more of that, let me know by subscribing and leaving a like on the video. Thanks so much for watching and until next time.